I suppose we should first address why the profits were up so much, and that was really due to lower deferred tax, because your operating profit down 4% to 145 million rand, and that's probably more indicative of the quarter you had.
Yeah, I think the volumes were slightly down on the underground side. On the surface side, the reclamation of all these old mine dumps in and around Johannesburg, we actually saw an 8% increase in production and a 40% increase in net operating profit. Also, the 9 months year on year has been exceptionally good for us. So the business is certainly trending in the right direction.
Of course, your focus is on the mine dumps and processing those rather than on underground operations. You've also indicated today that the board has approved the sale of Blyvoor, so that's something that's going to be moving ahead as well.
Yeah, we couldn't really do it before now. Blyvoor had to recover to at least the stage where I think we could get reasonable value for it, or fair value for it. And we're looking for a very particular kind of purchaser, definitely somebody who can maintain the sort of momentum that's been built up over the last 18 months or so and develop the company to its full potential, or the mine to its full potential. But I think our shareholders really have had enough of the ambiguity in our story, running to risk, running away from risk at the same time. And we really want to give them a simple, straightforward story without necessarily flushing away value when it's there.
So what sort of asset would a purchaser be buying in Blyvoor?
Well, the Blyvoor is certainly, well, first of all, Blyvoor has a 20 million ounce gold resource. It has an exceptionally good and well-established management team. It's a very safe mine. They've got a very good safety record. And I think with the right amount of capital, remember they've only been reinvesting what they made on that mine, with the right amount of capital, they can certainly maintain the increase in volume, the trend that they've established over the last year, to take it from 50,000 tonnes a month to 70,000 tonnes a month. If they can maintain that trend at about 90,000 tonnes a month, it becomes a far more attractive mine. But they do need accelerated capital, which I think at this stage is not there from the DRD Gold Group. In addition to that, the way that they position, with the right sort of balance sheet and with the right shareholder and capital, they can also play a role in consolidating some other non-core assets in and around the Carltonville area, and maybe also a little bit further away. So I think it's a solid mine with a solid operating management, with good both internal growth prospects as well as external growth prospects.
Any interest in that so far, or is it still too early for that?
No, look, what we decided to do is to make the announcement that we are now looking at the separation and exiting deep level underground mining. We've appointed what I believe are two very well positioned advisors, RBC in London and the Beijing Axis in Beijing. And hopefully they'll be able, now on the back of this announcement, they'll be able to source the right sort of purchaser for us. Any
idea of how much money you'll fetch for that asset? What would you call fair value for it?
Well, you know, the value on our books, obviously we don't want to anticipate the negotiating process. The value that we're recognizing on our books is about 500 million rand. But more important to us, I think at this stage, or as important to us at this stage, is the purchaser has to have the ability to fund the business going forward. Accelerated capital, and also play a role in further developing the business.
So you're not just going to have a fire sale just for the sake of getting rid of it?
We're not chucking anything overboard. Yeah, it's got to be a very specific kind of purchase, and that is as important as the amount that we're being offered.
And how would you like to apply the money that you do get for Blyvoor into the rest of the business?
Well, at this stage, the rest of our business is really fully capitalized. We may look at some other opportunities insofar as surface reclamation is concerned in South Africa, if those opportunities do come up. But if there's a surplus cash and surplus above the sort of buffer that we try to maintain of about 200 million rand, then the money, we'll recommend to the board that the money goes to shareholders.
Talk to us about the surface reclamation and the success you've had with that since you started it a number of years ago. I see that you're actually winding down the Top Star site in town. Have you got everything out of that? Where else are you looking at surface operations?
Well, we're really looking at fully integrating and consolidating the Central and West Rand operations with the Far East operations. In the Far East Rand, we have a plant that has a volume capacity of 2.4 million tonnes. We currently utilize per month. We're currently utilizing 1.2 million tonnes per month. We want to ramp that up to 1.8 million tonnes by the end of this year. And then that's a fully funded capital project that we're busy with now. We're sort of 75% through that project, hoping to have it in place by the end of the year. So there'll be a consolidation on that side. Because we've now created, let's say, additional volume capacity and also deposition capacity for the waste material, we've extended the life of the resources that we have in and around the Central Rand and West Rand area by about 5 years. or else we would have had to scale down that entire footprint. So that's added about 5 years to the life of the Central and West Rand. We have the better part of 12 years on existing life of mine in the Far East Rand. And then, of course, we have the better part of 1.7 billion tons of material under our control. So the life of this operation could extend well into 2 or 3 decades going forward.
Does reprocessing these mine dumps also address some of the environmental issues that they may have posed going into the future?
Oh, absolutely. Look, the reason why mining tailings in the Johannesburg area is so attractive at this stage is because so many of these tailings dams are 50 years and older. But the sad reality also is that in those days when those tailings dams were established, the environmental focus was maybe not as sharp as it is today. So you'll find that many of those tailings dams are in environmentally sensitive areas, old wetlands and so forth. So by moving all of these tailings material to a modern controlled environment and controlled site, you're cleaning up land for redevelopment, and you're also solving a big environmental problem.
And what sorts of redevelopment would you envisage perhaps at the Top Star down in town?
Well, the Top Star, for example, I think the site's 10 hectares in extent. There's already an established industrial area, so there might be a combination of light industrial and maybe some residential. Personally, I would like to see DRD making a contribution towards a bit of a green space as well, maybe a bit of a green lung there. There is no rest area in that area for commuters, for example. You know, people get into taxis at 4, they arrive back home at 9 in the evening, and in between there's nowhere for them to really go and relax. I think a combination of all those things would be what we would target for the development of the site.
Niel, prospects for the current quarter, you said the first 9 months have been pretty good. We've had the Rand gold price hitting a new record high last week.
Yeah.
The dollar gold price currently just around that $1,500 an ounce mark. How are things looking for this quarter and for the full year?
Well, I think we would like to maintain current production levels at least, and not drop to below 2 tons a quarter. We try to produce at least 2 tons a quarter, and I think we got to about 2.1 ton this particular quarter. Something that I think the market's going to have to factor in, over and above the fact that the gold price is actually significantly higher now as we speak than what it was on average for the quarter, is that there's an electricity hike. So those costs are going to...
And you're entering winter tariff season as well.
Yeah, that's right at the end of it. But I think there's it's still... At this stage, we're undecided as to whether we will pay those. I think there's room to challenge that depending on the legal advice that we get. We'd prefer not to have to challenge it, but to rather reach some sort of an arrangement with Eskom. I think commercially the justification for the levy has maybe fallen away over time. So we want to engage them on that in particular.
But nevertheless, you do face rising electricity costs anyway.
Yeah, we do.